Shiji Ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering from Rajiv Gandhi Institute of Technology, Kottayam. We have 15 years of teaching experience and industry experience, and we are lucky to have that. So I welcome Shiji Ma'am to conduct this session regarding the civil engineering. And students, please note this session will be of 1 hour. I will be lecturing, and after that you can again ask your doubts for the clarification. Shall we start?
Yes, we can start.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today I am going to deal with a topic in the 5th module of construction technology, that is vertical transportation in buildings. Okay, all of you know about the vertical transportation. All of you are always come across these type of vertical transportation systems nowadays. Okay, so what do you mean by vertical transportation? Vertical transportation means it is the transportation of people and goods from floor to floor in a building. That means the transportation of people and goods in different floors of a building, that is termed as vertical transportation. So there are different ways of vertical transportation. The main common methods or common ways are one is stair and the other one is escalator, lift, ramps, etc. So today we can see the different types of these vertical transportation systems and the layout and the planning of each of these. Okay, so first we start with the vertical transportation. First means of vertical transportation, that is stair. So what is a stair? All of you are knowing what is a stair. A stair means it is a series of steps arranged to connect the different floors in a building. And there are different types of stair also. And the room which is provided for a stair is known as the staircase. The space which is provided for providing a stair is known as the staircase. So before we go into the details of these stairs, we can see what are the different parts of the stair and what are the different types of stair also. Okay, so let us now discuss the parts of a stair. So these are the different parts of a stair. For laying out a stair in a building, you should know what are the different parts. So these are the different parts we come across. The most important parts are tread and the rise. Okay, you can see the figure. This shows the elevation of a stair. In this, you can see the different terms connected with the stair. So we'll start with the tread. A tread means it is the horizontal upper surface which is used for ascending as well as descending, where the foot is rest. Where our foot is rest, that part is termed as a tread. So tread means it is the upper horizontal portion of a step which is used for ascending as well as descent. So that is known as tread. Then the next part is known as the rise of a stair. The rise of a stair means this vertical distance, or the vertical distance which is covered in a single step is known as the rise of a stair. And riser means it is the this vertical portion which supports two treads, that is known as the riser. So the important parts are, one is tread. Tread means it is the horizontal portion or the upper horizontal portion which is used for ascending as well as descending, where our foot is rest. And this rise means it is a vertical distance which is covered in a single step. So this shows the rise. And riser means this vertical portion which is supported between these two treads, that is known as riser. Okay. Now this going portion is known as going. Going means it is the horizontal distance between two successive rises. It is a horizontal distance between two successive rises. So that is known as going. Okay. Now, next part is a flight. So this shows a single flight. A single flight means a series of steps. A series of steps in one direction. So that is known as a single flight. So this shows a single flight which is used for ascending as well as descending. And this portion is known as the landing portion. the horizontal portion where one flight ends. That is known as the landing portion. So after one flight, we can rest on this landing portion. The next flight starts after this one. So the landing is a horizontal portion after every flight. Okay, now this is the handrail. You know what is a handrail? So handrail is an inclined member, which is this inclined member, which is provided at the edges of stairs. Okay, and the two vertical posts, which are provided at the two edges of this handrail, or the start and end point of a handrail, is known as the newel post. So these two vertical members at the starting and end portion of a handrail, or to support the handrail, is known as the newel post. And these vertical members which are provided to support the handrail is known as the balusters. And one more thing, that is nosing. So this portion is known as the end of the nosing is always provided important parts of a stair. Then this sloping portion, this is known as the waist. This sloping slab, which is a portion, and this thickness of this sloping portion is the plan of a dog-legged stair. There is an abrupt change in the flight. So in between the flight, a landing will be provided. This is the plan. So this shows the upper flight, this going upwards, then a landing, then go to the next floor. So this shows a dog-legged stair. So if the width of the room is not sufficient, we can go for a dog-legged stair. Now the next, third one is an open newel stair. So you can see a rectangular well is being formed in the plan in the case of an open newel stair. So in between the flights, abrupt turning of the flights, there is a well which is formed. So that is an open rectangular well is formed. So such a type of stair is known as open newel stair. Then the fourth one is a spiral or a circular stair. So when you see the plan of this type of stair, you can see a circular ring with a single center of curvature. It's just like a circle with a single center of curvature. So that is known as a spiral stair. So these type of stairs are known as the winders. They are actually the tapering stairs which are being provided. Okay. Now, geometric stairs. Geometric stairs, you can see the geometric stairs. So,
Hello?
Can you hear the voice?
Yes, ma'am, it is audible.
Okay. Can we? Shall we continue? Hello. Shall we continue?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, we can continue.
Okay. Okay. So geometric stairs. So geometric stairs, you can see these type of stairs are the winder stairs which are provided to change the direction of the flight. So the single flight is being provided. Sometimes a landing is also provided at half space. Okay. Now in this type of stairs, no newel post will be provided. A single handrail will be provided from the start to the end. Next type of stair is a turning stair. Turning stair can be of different types such as quarter turn, then bifurcated stairs, 3/4 turn. In the case of a quarter turn, the flights will be turned by an angle of 90 degrees. So this shows a quarter turn, there is an angle 90 degrees. Now in the case of a bifurcated stair, the first stair or the starting stair will be a wide stair which is being divided into different flights in different directions. So this is a bifurcated stair. The third one is a 3/4 turn. In this case, it is turned 3 times. That means it is turned through an angle of 90 degrees 3 times. Total 270 degree angle will be turned. So that is a 3/4 turn. So that was a classification based on the shape of plan. Then the second classification is based on the materials used. So based on the materials used, the stairs can be stone, brick, wood, RCC, metal, glass, etc. Okay. So stone, you can see pictures of different types of stairs based on the materials: stone stair, brick stair, wooden stair, then RCC stair, metal stair, glass stair. And out of this, when you are using a stone stair, the stone should be a hard, durable stone. Then wooden stairs, the main disadvantage of wood is that it is not fire resistant. It is actually less fire resistant. So when you are using a wooden stair, it has to be used for a low-rise building as well as properly treated wood is to be, hardened wood is to be used. And our it is durable, it can be easily constructed, designed, and it is weather resistant, it is fire protected, etc. So that makes it useful for as a common type of stair nowadays. Okay, so see, these are the pictures of some amazing type of stairs. You can see the pictures. So all these type of stairs can be used. So that can be mainly used for aesthetic appearance and all architectural beauty. Or planning of a stair mainly used to decide what is the width of the stair to be provided, how much is the rise, as well as tread, and how many numbers of steps are to be provided in a single flight, and all these things. So planning is to be done in such a way that should be located near the main entrance. If it is a public building, that should be located near the main entrance of a building, and it should be easily accessible from all the rooms. And it should have good ventilation as well as lighting. Okay, so now we can see how can we plan a step or a stair. So these are some common codal provisions or recommendations for planning a stair. So the width of a stair is usually 0.9 meters. For a residential building, it is usually 0.9 meters, and it can go up to 2.5 meters, 1.5 to 2.5 meters for a public building. And number of steps in a flight, maximum 12 to 14 numbers can be provided, and minimum 3. And rise, usually for a residential purpose, we are usually providing 15 to 17.5 centimeters. And as well as for a public building, it should be lower, that is 12 to 15 centimeters. And going is usually 250 millimeters or 25 centimeters for a residential building, and 27 to 30 centimeters for a public building. And headroom means it is a vertical distance between the floors or the flight height distance. So that should not be less than 2.1 meters. So minimum 2.1 head distance is to be provided for a staircase. And handrails, minimum height of the handrails, that is 85 to 90 centimeters. Up to 1 meters we can provide. Okay. So now we can see an example how to provide stair, or how many, if you have a stair room, what are the, how many numbers of stairs or steps can be provided in a single flight. So just plan a staircase for a residential building in which the floor to floor distance is 3.3 meters. Floor to floor distance means the height of that staircase room, that is 3.3 meters. Just plan a staircase. So for that, let us assume that you know that the rise for a residential building, the rise is 150 to 175 millimeters. So just assume, let it be 15 centimeters. So plan for a step with a width as 0.9 meters and the rise is 15 centimeters or 0.15 meters. Floor to floor height is given as 3.3 meters. So how many rises are required? So the number of rises required is total the height is 3.3 meters divided by the rise of one step. Just 0.15. So this is being converted to millimeters. 3.3 meters into 1000. So 3300 millimeters divided by 150 millimeters. So the total number of rises required, total floor height divided by the height of one step. So that will give you the total number of steps to be provided in a that staircase room. So now it is 22. So in a single flight, so let us plan for a dog-legged stair. Okay. Now you know what is a dog-legged stair. So dog-legged stair have an abrupt change in the direction. Okay. So we can plan for a dog-legged stair. Total number of rises required is 22. So how many steps are required for one flight? It is 11. So in a single flight, 11 steps are required. So width of the landing is usually in 0.9 meters. So how many goings are required? So the tread goings means now we can say it as a tread. So tread required is actually rise minus 1. If 11 rises are there, there will be only 10 treads. 10 foots will be there. Okay. So the number of coins now required in one flight is 10. And the going for each step can be taken as 250 millimeters or 0.25 meters. So you can see. So this shows the plan or the layout of this staircase. That means this is a single flight, this is the next flight. So in a single flight, you can provide 11 rises. 11th rise will be a landing. 11th rise will be the landing. So 10 treads will be there. You can have the 10 treads. So this shows the plan of a staircase. Okay. In the other flight also, you will be having 10 treads. 11th will be the landing. So from here, from the ground floor, it is going upwards. This is the landing. From here, we are moving towards the first floor. So this shows the total run. That means the horizontal distance covered in that stairway. So what will be the horizontal distance now? The going is actually taken as 0.25 centimeters. Oh, sorry, 0.25 meters. So 0.25 into 10 treads will be there. That is 0.25 into 10. Provided that is 0.9 meters. So 2.5 plus 0.9 meters. So total 3.4 meter length is required for planning this staircase. And the height of the room is 3.3 meters. Hello? Hello?
Please continue.
Please continue, ma'am.
So this shows the layout of the a dog-legged stairway. Likewise, we can plan for any type of staircase. Okay, so this shows the planning. So that is about the stairs. That is the first type of a vertical transportation system. So now you know what are the different types of stairs as well as what are the different parts of a stair. How much is the caudal provision for different parts, and how we can plan for a single dog-leg stair. Okay. Now we can see the next type of vertical transportation system, that is known as the elevators. Elevators means lift. You all know what is a lift. You are all using lifts nowadays. Okay. Lifts means that is another vertical means of transportation that can be used efficiently to move the people as well as goods from one floor to floor. And it is usually powered or operated by electric motors. So this shows a lift room. I'll show you what are the different parts of a lift room. So this shows the lift room, and this shows the section, and this shows the plan. Plan means the top view. When you see the top view, you can have this as this shows the lift with the door here, and this is moving up and down. And this shows the section of a lift room. So these are the main parts of a lift room. It's known as the lift car, or we okay, and this lift is actually suspended by means of suspension rope, and it is having counterweight at the other end, and this shows the landing door, and a lift pit is also provided with buffers. Okay, so these are the main parts we will see. The lift consists of these parts: a lift car, that is the lift cab or the lift, mainly we can say lift, which is moving upwards or downwards on rails. And suspension rope, which suspends this shows the suspension rope, which is used for suspending the lift. And at the other end of the suspension rope, you can have the counterweight. That is used for the lifting purpose. Okay, that is used for ascending as well as descending. And this lift pit is provided. So this lift pit with buffers. Buffers are mainly used to relieve the shocks. When it is moving downwards, to relieve the shocks, these buffers are being provided. And this is known as the machine room. So this shows the section of a lift room, and this shows the plan of a lift room. So these are the different parts. I've already explained this one. Now, these are the characteristics of elevators or lifts. Lifts are mainly provided for 4 or more than 4 stories. If the number of floors is 4 or more than 4 stories, we can go for a lift. And this is a suitable speed to be provided, that is 100 to 150 feet per minute. And I told you what is a lift well. So this shows a lift pit or a lift well that the height of that lift pit should be minimum 1.6 to 2.6 meters below the bottommost landing. And the minimum opening height should be 2 meters. And again, how many lifts are to be provided? Or what is the capacity of the lifts to be provided? That depends upon the number of floors as well as the floor area. So the number of lifts and their capacity depends upon number of floors to be served, floor to floor distance, what is the height of each floor, what is the population to be served by each floor, and what is the maximum peak demand. During the peak hours, what is the demand? Or what is the capacity of how many people are using that particular. So all these factors are used to find how many lifts are to be provided as well as what is the capacity to be provided. Okay, so before we go into the details of the design of the lift, we can see what are the different types of lifts or elevators. Mainly, it is being classified into 4 types: passenger lift, goods lift, service lift, and hospital lift. Okay, so that is very well understood. Passenger lift, that is used for the movement of passengers, goods for goods, service, it can be used as a service, and hospital, mainly for the hospital purpose. And these are the main requirements of a lift when you are designing a lift. That means it should be a good system. A good working system should be the waiting time. That is a very important factor to be considered. That should be less. Aesthetics should be there, and movement of the door. That is also very important for designing a lift. And designing of a passenger lift or designing of a lift is mainly based on some codal provisions. It is based on the IS code 14665 and Indian Building Code of Part 8, Section 5. So according to this codal provision, a passenger lift can be designed based on these 3 conditions. One is the population to be served, quality of the service required, as well as the handling capacity of the lift. Okay. So we can see one by one how this is important for designing a lift. So we are going for a passenger lift according to codal provision of IS 14665 and Indian Building Code of Part 8, Section 5. Okay. So the first parameter to be considered is population to be served. So the population to be served is actually depending upon the floor area. That means how many population, how many people are using that particular lift. That depends upon the floor area of that floor. So according to codal provision, it is actually for single person, the floor area is actually varying from 4 meters square to 20 meters square. For office building, it can be taken as a 5 meters square floor area for one person. For a single person, it can be taken as 5 meters square. Likewise, you can determine first of all what is the floor area. Based on that floor area, we can calculate the population to be served by the lift. And the second parameter to be considered is the quality of service. And the quality of service is depending upon the passenger waiting time. You know what is passenger waiting time? That is the time when a passenger is waiting for a lift. So it is the quality of the service is actually measured by the passenger waiting time at various floors. So according to the codal provision, 20 to 25 seconds is taken as the excellent. That means the waiting time is actually less. So that is taken as the excellent quality. And 30 to 34 seconds can be taken as good, 35 to 40 fair, 45 seconds poor, and over 45 seconds it is unsatisfactory. So this is the passenger waiting time at each floors, at the various floors. So as the time increases, inconvenience also increases. So the quality of service is to be depending upon the passenger waiting time at different floors. So based on this codal provision only, we can go for the design. If it is a residential building or a public building, that varies. Now, the third parameter to be considered is the handling capacity of the lift. So, handling capacity mainly depends upon the quantity of service required. Quantity of service means the number of passengers handling the lift during the peak hours, each 5 minutes peak period of the day. So quantity handling capacity is actually depending upon the quantity of service, and quantity of service actually measured as the passengers, measured in terms of passengers handled during each 5 minutes peak period of the day. So if that can be determined, handling capacity of the lift. To caudal recommendation, if it is an office with diversified tenants, 10 to 15% can be taken as the handling capacity. If it is an office with a single tenant, it can be taken as 15 to 20%, 25%. All these are caudal quotients. According to caudal quotient only, we can go for the discount. And if it is a residential building with a single, then it can be taken as 75%. Handling capacity is actually 75%. Now, it can be calculated by using this formula. That is, handling capacity H is equal to 100 divided by T into P, where Q is the average number of passengers carried in a car. Car means lift cab or lift car. And T is the passenger waiting time or waiting interval in seconds. And P is the total population to be served. So by using this formula, the handling capacity of a lift can be determined. Okay. Now, again, this Q is actually the average number of passengers. In any time, the Q may not be 100%. That means it may not be actually occupied or loaded fully. So that we cannot go for 100%. We can go for 80% in the case of lift design. So Q depends mainly on the dimension of the car. So we can go for 80% when you go for the calculation of the handling capacity. So according to this formula, you can calculate the handling capacity of a car or a lift. Okay. And this waiting time, in the handling capacity, you can have a T. This T is known as the waiting interval in seconds. Now, how can you calculate? Using this formula, T is equal to RTT by N, where RTT is known as the round trip time required for the car. RTT is the round trip time required for the car. And N is known as the number of lifts. Okay, now, so what is round trip time? So this round trip time is the time required by a lift during its full motion. That means during ascending as well as descending. So it actually includes the opening time, closing time, then entry of the passengers at the ground floor, exit of passengers at the different floors, etc. Then acceleration period, then full motion period, etc. So the round trip time is actually the sum of the time required for all these time. That means the entry of passengers on the ground floor, that takes some time, then exit of passengers on each floor, then door closing time as well as opening time. There is an acceleration period, stopping time, then full speed. So all these times are added up to get the round trip time of a lift. So that divided by number of lifts will give you the waiting time in seconds. This waiting time can be used to calculate the handling capacity of the lift. Okay. Now, recommended speed of the car. These are the recommendations given in the IS code. As the number of floors increases, the speed of the car is actually going to be increased. Okay, so 4 to 5 floor, 0.5 to 0.75 is the recommended speed. If it is 6 to 12, 0.75 to 1.5 meter per second. And if it is 13 to 20, 1.5 to 2.5 meter per second. And if it is above 20, 2.5 meter per second or more. So as the number of floors increases, the speed also will increase. The recommended speed is increasing. Can you go for the capacity of a lift car? Car here means a lift car or the lift cab. If it is a single purpose building, you can design or you can provide the capacity of a car which is based on the number of passengers which are using the car and for a total load of about 884 kilograms. So if a number of persons are using the lift car, the total load for designing the car For a single purpose building, it is 884 kilogram. If it is a large office building, it is to be designed for a load of 2040 kilogram. And for designing lift, weight of a person, the average weight is taken as 68 kilogram. So based on this, the capacity of the car or the size of the car can be determined. Okay, so that is about the. So we have already come across two types of vertical transportation system, that is the stairs as well as the elevators or lift. Okay, I think this much is clear. Now we can move on to the next type of vertical transportation system, escalator. You all know what is escalator. Escalators are mainly nowadays provided in public buildings as well as in aero. Escalator is an electrically operated moving stair. So the difference between a stair, a simple stair, and an escalator is that it is an electrically operated. The advantages of using escalator is that it does not require any operator and consume less power. Okay. Now we can see what are the different characteristics of escalator. So escalators are usually provided at an inclination of about say 30 degrees. That is a desirable inclination according to the caudal provision. So it is 30 degrees. And the speed is usually 25 to 30 meters per minute. The speed should not be too high or too low, so that it will cause inconvenience to the passengers. So of a steel framework on which an endless belt is being provided. So it's a steel framework on which this belt consists of a number of stairs and the handrails. So these stairs will be moving up or down. Of a vertical transportation കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ടൈം ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഡിസൈൻ വേണമെങ്കിൽ ഒന്നും കൂടെ പറയാം സ്റ്റെയറിന്റെ ഡിസൈൻ.
ആക്ച്വലി സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് സ്റ്റെയറിന്റെ പാർട്സ് ഓഫ് സ്റ്റേഴ്സ് ഒന്നും കൂടെ എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്യാൻ ചോദിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്.
ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ, കുഴപ്പമില്ല, അത് അവരുടെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യനിൽ ചോദിച്ചാൽ മതി, ഞാൻ ഒന്നുകൂടെ എക്സ്പ്ലെയിൻ ചെയ്യും. ഇതൊന്ന് കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ചെയ്യും. ഓക്കെ. So ramps are actually a sloping surface which is used to connect different pools. Just like the other vertical transportation means, ramps are also commonly used nowadays. And it is actually a sloping surface which is used to connect different pools at different levels. Mainly ramps are provided for physically challenged, provided for every public buildings. That is a main requirement for a public building design. A minimum one ramp is to be provided. Okay. So it is provided mainly to facilitate physically challenged people or patients. Mainly used in railways, aerodromes, multi-story parking facilities, and all the public buildings we have to provide. And what are the main characteristics of a ramp? A slight slope is to be provided. So the slope is usually no more than 1 in 15. 1 in 15 means for a 15 horizontal distance, 1 should be the rise. That means if it is a 15 centimeter horizontal distance, you have to provide 1 centimeter rise. Likewise, the slope is to be provided. That inclination should not be more than 1 in 15. If it is more than 1 in 50, that will cause inconvenience. Okay, it need not be straight. It can be a dogleg, a ramp, zigzag, curved, etc. That depends upon the requirement. And if the direction changes, a landing is also to be provided. See, this is a ramp, and if you have to change the direction of this ramp, then you have to provide a landing. So that is a requirement of a ramp. Okay, and handrails also has to be provided on both the sides. That provides that is to be required on both the sides of the ramp. This handrails, and it should not be slippery also. So these are the main characteristics of a ramp when you go for the design of a ramp. Okay, so these are all the overview of vertical transportation system. So mainly used vertical transportation systems are stairs, then elevators or lift, and escalators are the, then ramps are the. I hope it is clear to you. If you have